This video will work for you even if you don't have a presentation ready. It's still going to help you. So how do you test this? How do we test your presentation? Every time you finish a dry run of your presentation, ask your listener the following questions. First, please remember and list the projects I was talking about. Second question is, what were the user or business problems? Please remember how these problems were solved. How did we know if the solutions worked? Please remember any examples of collaborations with other people in the team. And what was my individual contribution? These are open-ended questions, right? This means that you listen and write down everything that you hear without interrupting your peer. The goal of this test is to identify areas that needs clarification and so that you can improve your next iteration. At the big tech companies, FANG, interviewers write feedback about you. They answer similar questions and grade candidates on an internal scale. So ask these questions one at a time. Write down the answer to the previous question before moving to the next one. And this sequence will help you structure the feedback. Please resist the urge to argue or correct your peer. Imagine they are a hiring manager and their feedback is what they will remember you by. And learn from it and think how you tell a story in a way that they remember what you want them to remember. This is why you don't want to argue, you don't want to explain, you just want to write it down so that you can figure out later how you're going to fix this and try again, and probably with another peer. So your ultimate goal is to adjust your storytelling so that everyone understands the story exactly as you intend. So it should align with the description of the job you want. So let's go through these questions one by one. The first question was, can you remember and list the projects I mentioned? So 30 minutes is a long time for a presentation, and most presentations are boring. Listeners can lose track of projects, and this happens when presentations are poorly structured or overloaded with information. So if your listener can list your projects, it's a good sign. It means that they at least remember your work, and listeners don't need to stay engaged the whole time, and it's presenter's job to hold their attention with clear structure and narration. Second question, problem statements. So the question was, what were the user or business problems? Check if your listeners can retell the problem statement in their own words. If their version matches yours, you're on the right track. This means they understood what you were trying to solve. Why does it matter? At the end of each case study, they should be able to match the problem statement with the solution. Understanding the problem helps them properly evaluate the solution. It is helpful to boil the problem statement down to one clear sentence for each case study. One simple, short sentence for each case study. So communicating the problem clearly shows that you understand what you were doing. I've seen many designers struggle to explain their tasks or even identify if there was a problem at all. So you don't want to be that kind of designer. You want people to clearly understand what you are trying to solve. Question number 3, your solution to the problems. It is about the scope and the body of work. The question was, can you remember how these problems were solved? Or better, please remember how these problems were solved. So can you remember? It's a yes or no questions. We don't do that. So the answer shows how well you explained your solution. The solution is why they want to hire you. The answer also reveals what stood out to your peer. Compare their answer to what you expected and what you wanted them to tell you, what you wanted them to understand, and use this to identify discrepancies to improve clarity to test in the next iteration. And to do that, think of these questions. Did you emphasize the points you intended? Do they align with the job you're applying for? Did you highlight something relevant to the job description? Were these points clear from your presentation? Think about these questions, and it's going to help you to come up with the next version by answering them. The question number 4 was about the problem and solution and their verification. Ask the listener to explain how you verified that your solution worked. People hire professionals to improve products. This is your chance to show how your work made the difference. Common verification methods include user feedback or improved metrics. They're measurable. These results are usually evident after a project has launched. The changes should directly align with the problem you initially identified. A successful outcome also proves the problem was worth addressing. From your peer's answer, you'll see if the solution added value, if your solution added value. This must be crystal clear to your listener, especially in a real job interview. This is what makes you a strong candidate. Avoid discussing the process. The process is not the same as verifying whether your solution was successful. They hire for results, not processes. Question number 5. Cross-functional collaboration. You might see it abbreviated as XFN. The question is, please remember any examples of collaborations with other people on the team. The keyword here is examples. Focus on how you collaborated with team members and highlight these examples in your presentation. Why is this important? The designer's role is central to the entire team. Every team member either collaborates with the designer or depends on their decisions. In mature companies with complex products, delivering meaningful results alone is impossible, so cross-functional collaboration is essential. And hiring manager wants to know how well you can integrate into a team, whether you collaborate during the research, whether you contribute to delivery, whether you assist with the product launch, and all these kind of questions. Your peer's answer will show which examples stood out to them. Use this feedback to refine your narrative if it was not obvious how you collaborated with other people on the team. Question number 6, individual contribution. What exactly did you deliver to achieve the impact you mentioned? The goal of this question is to make your individual contribution clear. This is why they want to hire you at the end of the day, and listen carefully what stood out to your listener. Take notes to adjust your highlights in the next iteration. Some designers create a slide where they just say, this is what I did, and then go over the whole project. Make sure your contribution aligns with the job you're aiming for. For example, if your contribution was user research, but the job description expects you to deliver some animated interfaces in Figma or Framer, so there's an obvious mismatch, right? So think of this. If they're looking for someone who will be animating interfaces or developing interfaces, that might be something you want to highlight and lean heavily to in your storytelling, in your presentation. See if there's no mismatches with what you want to, with what kind of job you want to have. Be sure you're not taking credit for someone else's work. Some designers find it hard to identify their specific contributions to a project. And if that's true for you, consider leaving that project out of your presentation. Any attempt to obscure or stretch the truth, it is really easy to spot. And especially when designers overusing the word we in their presentation and hiring teams, they actually value honesty and clear ownership of your work. So that is something to be mindful about. And while once you've seen like a dozen presentations, it'll be super easy for you to spot when someone saying they did something on a project. Well, actually, they did not. While you listen to the feedback, if you're in a conversation with your peer, write everything down word for word. So, reviewing your notes later can reveal insights you might have missed the first time. It happens all the time because after presentation, you're in high spirits or agitated, stressed. So, you might miss some important things that people are telling you. If you're not recording the video, so write everything down. And it's very important that you can review it the next day. I developed this structure for Presentum. Presentum is a platform for designers. They listen for your presentation, to your presentation, and give guided feedback. They answer these questions. They answer key questions from this guide, and each session has a new listener, so they can try and test your iterations with the new peers. This ensures fresh and unbiased feedback every time, and it's perfect for testing and improving presentations. Presenters can also download video recordings for analysis and get written feedback from a peer. And Presentum has over 1,000 users as of 2024, and it is free for all designers. So, to better understand this hiring side, I strongly recommend listening to other presentations and writing down feedback with your own hands, like typing down all the answers to these questions once you've listened to a presentation. Many participants said that this exercise had the greatest impact on their presentation style and confidence. They boosted their confidence. Now that you know these questions, use your answers to shape the presentation, test them one way or another, and see how it works for you. And I invite you to test them on presentum.io or dojo.design. See you there.